At 2 in the morning, police dragged me out of bed over a false suicide report. While I was still groggy and medicated, my parents tried to take full control of my life. When I finally came to, my name was on documents I'd never even heard of before. They thought they'd finally broken me, silenced me, maybe even had me locked away for good. But when they dragged me out of my apartment in handcuffs at 2 a.m., little did they know they were just handing me the blueprint to burn their whole world down. The thought, my parents think this boat is a symbol of their wealth. They don't know it's actually a one-way ticket to federal prison, played on a loop in my head, a dark, unsettling mantra. I was pulling into the lake house driveway, the gravel crunching under my tires, and I could already feel the heavy weight of the evening ahead. I was still in my work clothes, navy slacks, a silk blouse, all wrinkled from a brutal 12-hour day at the agency. My body ached, that specific, deep-set exhaustion that comes from skipping lunch and running on fumes. I should have gone home, changed, prepared myself. But Dr. Thorne's secretary had called 3 hours ago, asking about the wire transfer, and I just needed to know it went through. Merrick's HSCT procedure was scheduled for next week. $215,000. Every single penny of my retirement savings liquidated overnight. All because insurance had denied the claim. Again. The golden hour light was slanting across the water as I walked toward the dock. The party was already in full swing. 100 guests in their designer casual wear, champagne flutes catching the last rays of sun, laughter echoing across the perfectly manicured lawn. Fireworks were stacked near the boathouse, ready for tonight's show. Everything about this scene screamed money, privilege, a life I barely recognized anymore. And there they were. Conrad and Lenora. My father, holding a champagne bottle aloft like some kind of grotesque trophy, his matching white linen suit pristine. My stepmother, Lenora, her smile wide and practiced, the kind she reserved exclusively for an audience. And between them, the reason for this whole sickening celebration, a gleaming, cobalt blue speedboat. $180,000 of fiberglass and chrome. The crowd applauded as Conrad, with a theatrical flourish, smashed the bottle against the hull. Champagne exploded in a golden spray. We christen thee the Merrick Clay. Lenora's voice, delighted with her own cleverness, carried across the water. My stomach dropped, not just from exhaustion, but from a cold dread. I scanned the crowd, my eyes darting through the sea of designer clothing until I found him. Merrick. He was standing near the buffet table, one hand gripping a drink, the other trembling slightly at his side. He's 25, but in that light, he looked younger, boyish and uncertain. His eyes found mine for a split second, a flicker of something unreadable, before darting away. He knew. God, he knew. I pushed through the crowd, my heels sinking into the soft grass with every step. Someone tried to hand me champagne, and I just waved them off. Conrad saw me coming, and his expression shifted, the facade of celebration cracking into something guarded. Elise. His voice was too loud, too jovial. You made it after all. We weren't sure you'd get away from that office of yours. Did Dr. Thorne receive the wire transfer? I kept my voice low, acutely aware of the guests milling nearby. The procedure is in 7 days. They need to confirm payment by tomorrow morning. Conrad's face did something complicated. His smile stayed fixed, but his eyes went flat cold. Let's not discuss business at a party, sweetheart. It's not business, I cut him off, my voice a tight whisper. It's Merrick's treatment. Elise. Lenora appeared at Conrad's elbow, a champagne glass dangling from her manicured fingers. Her smile hadn't wavered, not even a millimeter. You look exhausted, darling. When was the last time you slept? The wire transfer, I repeated, my patience wearing thin. $215,000. Did you send it? 2. Lenora laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was bright and careless, like I'd just told a hilarious joke. Oh, that. She waved her free hand dismissively. We decided not to pursue that particular treatment. The world tilted. The ground beneath my feet felt like it was dissolving. You decided? My voice came out strangled, barely a sound. That money was in a medical trust. For Merrick's care. And we used it for Merrick's care, she purred, gesturing toward the gleaming boat with her champagne flute. Fresh air and sunshine are much better therapy than some risky experimental procedure. The boy needs normal experiences, not needles and hospital beds. Conrad nodded along like she was making perfect sense. Dr. Thorne admitted himself the success rate isn't guaranteed, Conrad chimed in, his voice oozing false concern. We're not throwing good money after bad. That money wasn't yours to throw anywhere. My hands were shaking now. I clenched them into fists, digging my nails into my palms. I liquidated my retirement accounts. Every penny I had saved. That was supposed to give Merrick a chance at stopping the disease progression. The disease is genetic, Elise. Lenora's tone shifted to something patronizing, saccharine. No amount of money will fix his DNA. But a boat? She smiled, a truly sickening display of maternal pride. A boat gives him joy. Memories. A normal summer with his family. I turned away from them, their smug faces burning in my vision. I searched for Merrick again. He was still by the buffet table, but he was watching us now. Our eyes met across 30 feet of manicured lawn and expensive guests. I waited. I waited for the outrage, the confusion, some sign that he was as horrified as I was. Instead, his gaze dropped to his shoes. His shoulders hunched forward. The tremor in his hand got worse. I walked toward him on legs that didn't feel like mine. The crowd parted around me, their whispers a dull hum. By the time I reached him, I already knew what he was going to say. Don't. His voice was barely a whisper, a plea. Don't make a scene, Elise. Please. I just want a normal summer. The words landed like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. You knew. It wasn't a question. They told you. And you said yes. The procedure isn't even FDA approved, he mumbled, still not looking at me. Mom's right about the success rates. And I'll have the boat for years. We can take it out on the lake. Have fun. Actually enjoy life instead of what? I pressed, my voice raw. Instead of fighting for your mobility? Your future. Instead of turning my whole existence into a medical emergency. His voice cracked, high and desperate. Several guests turned to look. He lowered it again immediately. I'm so tired, Elise. I just want to be normal. Just for one summer. Something inside me broke clean in half. 7 years ago, I sat in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and death. Machines beeped steadily in the background. My mother's hand was cold in mine, her breathing labored. She made me promise. Take care of the boys. Make sure they're okay. 9 months ago, Merrick called me, crying. The diagnosis was progressive and aggressive. Insurance wouldn't cover the experimental treatment. I didn't hesitate. I emptied everything. Deleted my future in a single wire transfer because that's what you do for family. And he chose a boat. My hands found the champagne tray before I consciously decided to move. Crystal flutes caught the late afternoon sun, throwing rainbow prisms across the deck. I watched my own hands sweep across the tray and one violent arc glass exploded. Champagne sprayed. The shattering sound cut through every conversation, every laugh, every performance of wealth and happiness. Silence crashed down like a guillotine blade. 100 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Lenora's mouth formed a perfect O of shock. Conrad's face flooded red. Merrick just stood there, trembling, looking anywhere but at me. I walked. Through the frozen crowd. Past their judging stares. Across grass that cost more to maintain than most people's mortgages. Conrad's voice followed me. Elise, you're being dramatic. Come back here. I kept walking. Lenora's stage whisper carried perfectly in the silence. The stress has finally broken her. I knew this would happen. I reached my car, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip my keys. The engine turned over. I pulled away from that lake house, white-knuckled on the steering wheel, hyperventilating, but I didn't look back. In the rearview mirror, I watched Conrad and Lenora fold into each other, comforting embraces, concerned whispers to nearby guests. Already reframing this. Already making me the villain. The Merrick Clee gleamed on the dock behind them, christened with stolen hope. The next morning, the fluorescent lights in Kaylin Pierce's office buzzed like trapped insects. It was 7 a.m. I hadn't slept. My coffee sat untouched on the glass conference table between us, growing cold while Kaylin's pen moved across legal pads with surgical precision. Say that last part again. Her voice was flat. Clinical. About the mortgage. My voice felt rough. The lake house is in my name. I co-signed when Conrad's credit tanked 3 years ago. He promised to refinance within 6 months. I dug through my purse for the folder I'd grabbed before leaving my apartment at 5:30. He never did. Kaylin took the documents without looking at me. Her reputation preceded our introduction. Forensic accountant turned attorney. She destroyed more fraudulent estates than the IRS. People called her ruthless. I was counting on it. Supplemental credit cards? She was already writing. 2. Both on my primary account. Conrad uses them for the country club. Lenora for boutique shopping in Greenwich. Carlice's. Merrick's SUV. Luxury package. I'm the primary on that too. The words tasted like ash. He needed reliable transportation after the diagnosis. I thought I was helping. Kaylin's pen stopped moving. She looked up for the first time since I sat down. Her eyes, behind practical, no-nonsense frames, were sharp. You understand what I'm proposing here. This isn't cutting them off. This is scorched earth. Good. She almost smiled. Almost. By 8:30, every supplemental card was canceled. By 9, I'd authorized stopping mortgage payments on the lake house, effective immediately. By 9:15, the luxury SUV lease termination was filed. Kaylin documented each action in triplicate, her handwriting precise as a scalpel. They'll retaliate, she said, her voice a low warning. People like this always do. Let them try. I left her office feeling lighter than I had in years. The morning air tasted different. Cleaner. The feeling lasted exactly 4 hours. The delivery arrived at my advertising agency just after lunch. I was in the middle of reviewing mock-ups for a pharmaceutical campaign when my assistant poked her head in. Elise? There's a situation in reception. 3 dozen white roses crowded the front desk like a funeral arrangement. Enormous. Obscene. The kind of display meant to be seen by everyone on the floor. The crystal vase caught the light from the floor-to-ceiling windows, gleaming. My coworkers had already started gathering, phones out, probably posting to social media. The card sat propped against the vase in a small cream envelope. I recognized Lenora's spidery handwriting before I even opened it. We forgive your outburst. We know you're stressed. Love always, Mom and Dad. My hands didn't shake this time. They were steady as I lifted the entire arrangement, vase and all. Water sloshed. Rose petals scattered across the industrial carpet. I carried it through the bullpen, past cubicles, straight to the back exit. The dumpster behind the building reeked of yesterday's catering. I dumped the whole thing in. Glass shattered. White petals mixed with coffee grounds and discarded lunch containers. When I turned around, Janet from accounting was standing in the doorway. She'd worked here longer than anyone, seen 3 CEOs come and go. Her expression was knowing. Not the first time? I asked. Not even close, honey. She held the door open for me. Good for you. I was back at my desk when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered anyway. You humiliated me. Merrick's voice cracked with hysteria. Not pain. Not fear. Just pure, wounded ego. The repo man took the SUV while I was at dinner. At Lucia's. On a date. Lucia's. $200 entrées. While his sister was liquidating her future for his medical treatments, he was apparently deciding he didn't need them. You embarrass me in front of her. He wasn't even trying to lower his voice. I could hear restaurant noise in the background. He was calling from the street. Everyone saw. How am I supposed to explain this? You chose the boat, I said, my voice ice cold. That's not. You chose the boat over treatment. Over your own future. So now you get to explain that choice to your date. Good luck. I disconnected. Blocked the number. Returned to the pharmaceutical mock-ups like nothing happened. But something had happened. The confirmation settled in my chest like concrete. Merrick wasn't a victim. He was a parasite who had learned to weaponize his own disease. The tremor in his hand at yesterday's party wasn't illness. It was performance anxiety. Fear of losing his comfortable life. not his mobility. That afternoon, Kaylin called. "We need to talk about your insurance claims." Her office again. Different conference room. Smaller. More private. She spread printouts across the table like crime scene photos. "I pulled your financial history for asset protection purposes. Standard procedure." Her finger tapped a highlighted section. "These charges. Intensive psychotherapy. 2 years of weekly sessions. The provider name means nothing to me. Apex Neurotherapy Solutions." I'd never been to therapy. "I know." Kaylin pulled up another document. "The billing address is a P.O. box, registered to your parents' zip code. Near the lake house. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Someone's been using your insurance. Filing false claims. Collecting reimbursements." She met my eyes. "This is federal fraud, Elise. Wire fraud. Identity theft. We're not talking about family drama anymore." "How much?" $40,000. Maybe more. I'm still tracing the accounts. I should have felt shocked. Violated. Instead, I felt something close to relief. They weren't just toxic. They were criminals. This wasn't a moral gray area anymore. It was black and white. Evidence and law. "What do we do?" Kaylin leaned back in her chair. Her expression shifted into something predatory. "We don't confront them. Not yet." She tapped the documents. "I want to hire a private investigator. Trace the billing source. Document everything. Build an airtight case before they know we're looking." Why wait? Because right now they think they're winning. They think the flower stunt worked. That you're backing down. Let them think that. Her smile was razor sharp. Let them get comfortable while we build the trap. When we move, it'll be decisive. Total. They won't see it coming until it's too late. I thought about Merrick screaming about his date. Conrad's inevitable tantrum when the mortgage payment bounced. Lenora's perfectly styled panic when her credit cards declined at the boutique. How long? 2 weeks. Maybe 3. The investigator I use is thorough. She started gathering the documents. In the meantime, you go about your life. Work. Sleep. Act normal. Can you do that? Yes. Good. She slid a business card across the table. This is the investigator. Marcus Webb. Former FBI. He'll be in touch within 48 hours. I left her office as the sun set over Manhattan. The city lights blinked on one by one. Somewhere across the state, my parents were probably toasting their victory with champagne, celebrating their clever daughter's emotional breakdown, planning their next manipulation. They had no idea I'd stopped playing defense. I'd gone on offense. I waited for the fallout. It took 48 hours of silence. Then Conrad showed up at my office on a Wednesday afternoon. I knew before security called that this wouldn't be quiet. The agency occupies the 14th floor of a glass tower in Midtown. Every wall is transparent. Every conversation visible. It's designed to foster collaboration, creativity, open communication. Right now, it meant 70 people could watch my father lose his mind in the lobby. I was in the conference room when my assistant appeared in the doorway, her face carefully neutral. "Elise? There's a Conrad Taylor downstairs. He's asking for you." Through the glass wall, I saw heads turning, screens dimming as people abandoned work to watch. "Tell security I'll be right there." I didn't rush. I saved the pitch deck I was reviewing. Closed my laptop with deliberate care. Smoothed my charcoal blazer. When I finally walked toward the lobby, my heels clicked against the marble with a steady rhythm that sounded calmer than I felt. He was already screaming when I pushed through the glass doors. Elder abuse. Conrad's face was purple, veins standing out on his forehead. He was wearing a polo shirt that cost more than most people's car payments, but sweat stains darkened the color. My own daughter is committing elder abuse. The security guard had one hand raised, trying to calm him. 2 junior account executives froze mid-step near the elevators. The receptionist's fingers hovered over her phone, uncertain whether to call the police. "She's stolen our money." Conrad whirled toward me, finger jabbing the air. "Cut off her dying brother. Left him to rot while she lives in luxury." I stopped 3 feet away. I didn't cross my arms. Didn't raise my voice. Just stood there with my hands loose at my sides, watching him perform. We gave her everything, he continued, playing to the growing audience. Sacrificed for her education, her career, and this is how she repays us? Abandoning family when we need her most. The elevator dinged. 3 more employees emerged and immediately went still. Sir. The security guard stepped closer. I need you to lower your voice, or I'll have to ask you to leave. Leave? Conrad's laugh was bitter. Theatrical. My daughter steals from her own parents and you want me to leave? What kind of world is this? I met his eyes. Said nothing. Merrick is dying, Elise. His voice dropped to something that might pass for grief if you didn't know better. Your brother is dying and you don't even care. You took everything we had and walked away. Behind me, I heard whispers. Speculation. The exact reaction he wanted. Security. My voice carried across the lobby, steady and cold. Please escort Mr. Taylor from the building. He's not welcome here. Conrad's face went from purple to nearly crimson. You ungrateful. The security guard gripped his elbow. A second guard appeared from the stairwell. They flanked him, professional and firm. Don't touch me. Conrad tried to shake them off, but they were already guiding him toward the doors. You'll regret this, Elise. You'll regret abandoning your family. His voice echoed in the marble lobby even as they pushed him outside. Through the glass, I watched him stumble on the sidewalk, still shouting, still performing for an audience that could no longer hear him. I turned back to find 70 pairs of eyes on me. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then I walked back through the glass doors to my desk like nothing happened. That evening, Margaret Chin called me into her office at 6:15. The senior partner's corner suite overlooked the city, floor-to-ceiling windows framing Manhattan in golden light. She's 60, elegant, with silver hair cut in a severe bob and a reputation for dismantling incompetent executives before lunch. I expected termination. Family drama affecting workplace professionalism. Bringing personal chaos into a professional environment. I'd already drafted my resignation letter in my head. Sit. Margaret gestured to the chair across from her desk. I sat, spine straight, hands folded in my lap. She studied me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she opened a folder and slid a document across the polished surface. Creative director. $40,000 raise. You start Monday. I stared at the contract. The words didn't make sense. I watched the entire scene this afternoon. Margaret leaned back in her chair. Then I did some research. Your brother's medical situation. Your parents' financial history. The trust fund they emptied. Heat crawled up my neck. I apologize for bringing that into the office. It won't happen again. Your composure under attack was remarkable. Margaret tapped the contract. Most people would have screamed back, defended themselves. Made it worse. You stood there and let him destroy his own credibility. That's leadership, Elise. I don't understand. This is a position you've been in consideration for. We were planning to offer it next quarter. She paused. Were you going to decline? To care for your brother? The question hit like a physical blow because yes, I'd been considering exactly that. Stepping back from my career to manage Merrick's care. Sacrificing my own trajectory for his needs. I was evaluating my options, I said carefully. Good. Because we need you here. Not playing nursemaid to a family that's clearly willing to destroy you. Margaret stood, signaling the meeting was over. Sign the contract. Take tomorrow off. Come back Monday ready to lead. I walked out of her office in a daze, the unsigned contract clutched in my hands. Dr. Eris Thorne met me at Gramercy Tavern at 8. He'd already claimed a corner table, wine glasses catching candlelight. Not romantic, despite what people assume when they see us together. Just the closest thing I had to family that wasn't actively trying to ruin me. You look different. He stood when I approached, studying my face. Good different. I got promoted. To creative director? He grinned. Elise, that's incredible. I slid into my seat, and the words just came, spilling out. I'm done being the fixer. I'm done sacrificing myself for people who'd sell me for boat accessories. Eris raised his wine glass. To your freedom. We toasted with a Bordeaux that cost more than Conrad's polo shirt. The wine tasted like victory, rich and complex. I laughed for the first time in months, the sound surprising even to me. You look lighter, Eris observed. Like someone cut strings you didn't know were holding you down. Around us, the restaurant hummed with quiet conversation. Normal people having normal dinners. No screaming. No manipulation. Just genuine connection over good food and better wine. My phone buzzed throughout dinner. Texts from coworkers offering support. An email from building security confirming Conrad was banned from the premises. A voicemail from my neighbor saying suspicious cars had been circling the lake house. Another email from the bank. Fraud investigation officially opened. Kaylin sent a message at 9:30. PI found something big. Shell company registered to Lenora's maiden name. Call me tomorrow. The web of allies formed naturally around the truth. People who saw through the performance. Who recognized abuse when they witnessed it. By the time Eris walked me to my apartment building, I felt untouchable. The financial cutoff worked. The boundaries held. Conrad's public meltdown only made him look unstable. Desperate. Exactly what he is. I was in bed by 10. Promotion paperwork spread across my comforter. Planning my first moves as creative director. Mentally reorganizing the department. Thinking about the future for the first time in years without family obligation weighing every decision. Sleep came easy. Deep and dreamless. The first full night's rest I'd had in weeks. At 2 a.m., my apartment door exploded inward. Flashlights blinded me. Shouted commands overlapped into incomprehensible noise. Rough hands dragged me from bed, threw me face down on the hardwood floor. My cheek pressed against the cold wood. Metal cuffs bit into my wrists. What's happening? My voice came out strangled. What did I do? A SWAT officer crouched beside me. Showed me his phone screen. Text message from my number to Merrick. Timestamp 1:47 a.m. I bought a gun. I'm ending it all tonight. I didn't send that. My heart hammered against my ribs. That's not from me. Someone spoofed my number. Red flag laws, ma'am, the officer said, checking my restraints. We received a 911 call from a family member stating you had a loaded weapon and were threatening immediate violence. Combined with this text message, we had to act. Mandatory psychiatric evaluation. They hauled me to my feet. My neighbors peered from cracked doors as they dragged me down the hallway in pajamas. Mrs. Rodriguez covered her mouth. The college kid, 2 doors down, filmed on his phone. Outside, blue and red lights painted the street. 3 police cars. An ambulance. Like I was a terrorist instead of someone who just got promoted. They shoved me into the back of a squad car, and I realized with perfect, horrible clarity, my parents just weaponized the law itself. The psychiatric ward smelled like industrial bleach and desperation. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, harsh and unrelenting, the kind of brightness designed to strip away any pretense of privacy or peace. I'd been there 68 hours. For more to go. They took everything at intake. Phone, wallet, belt, shoelaces. The standard protocol for someone flagged as a suicide risk. The nurse who processed me had kind eyes but tired hands. She'd done this 1,000 times before. You'll get through this, she'd whispered while cataloging my belongings. Just stay calm. Calm. Right. Someone was screaming 3 doors down. A man's voice, raw and broken, begging for his mother. The sound scraped against my skull. I'd learned to tune it out. Mostly. File it away with the other ambient horrors. The woman who paced the hallway counting backward from 1,000. The teenager who hadn't stopped crying since I arrived. I sat on the edge of my bed, hands folded in my lap. Perfect posture. Corporate armor even in hospital scrubs. The psychiatrist arrived for my 3rd evaluation right on schedule. Dr. Reeves. Mid-50s, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of measured neutrality that comes from years of professional detachment. He carried a clipboard and a pen that clicked when he thought. How are you feeling today, Elise? Tired. True enough. The mattress was thin and the screaming didn't stop at night. But stable. Focused. He made a note. Click, click. Your family is very concerned about you. My family? The ones who weaponized a spoofed text message and red flag laws to have me dragged out of my apartment at 2 in the morning. Very concerned indeed. I appreciate their concern. My voice was flat, professional. The tone I use in client meetings when someone pitches a terrible idea. But I never sent that message. I don't own a gun. I've never expressed suicidal ideation to anyone. Sometimes people in crisis don't remember what they've said or done. I'm not in crisis. I made a financial decision to protect my assets. My parents disagreed with that decision. Click, click, click. Your father mentioned an incident at a family gathering. You destroyed property. Became violent. I knocked over a tray of champagne glasses. I met his eyes, holding steady. After learning my parents had stolen $215,000 from my brother's medical fund, I removed myself from the situation before saying anything I'd regret. Dr. Reeves watched me for a long moment. I knew what he was looking for. Agitation. Mania. Some crack in the facade that confirmed their narrative. I gave him nothing but icy precision. You seem very controlled, he said finally. I am controlled. It's how I function. That level of control can be exhausting. Less exhausting than the alternative. He made another note. I couldn't read his handwriting from this angle, but I didn't need to. I'd documented every interaction, every question, every violation of my rights since I arrived. The nurse who believed me slipped me paper and a pen after the first day. When Dr. Reeves left, I added this session to my list. Time. Duration. Questions asked. My responses. Evidence for later. The 72nd hour arrived like a prison sentence commuted. They returned my belongings in a sealed plastic bag. My phone was dead. My wallet still had all my cards. The nurse who believed me squeezed my shoulder as I signed the discharge papers. Good luck out there. I was going to need it. The automatic doors slid open. Late afternoon sun hit my face, blinding after 3 days of fluorescent hell. I squinted, adjusting. And that's when I saw him. A man in a cheap suit, holding a manila envelope. He straightened when he spotted me. Elise Taylor? My stomach dropped, but I kept my expression neutral. Yes, you've been served. He handed me the envelope and walked away before I could respond. I didn't open it until I was in the parking lot, leaning against someone's car because my legs suddenly didn't feel trustworthy. The papers inside were crisp, official, stamped with the Superior Court seal, petition for conservatorship of the estate. Petitioners, Conrad Taylor and Lenora Merrick Taylor. I scanned the document, my advertising brain automatically cataloging the key points. Police raid. Erratic spending patterns. Suicidal ideation. Inability to manage financial affairs. They were seeking legal control of my assets. All $2.3 million. Court date set for 3 weeks from today. My phone buzzed back to life as I plugged it into my car charger. 17 missed calls. 23 texts. Most from Kaylin Pierce. I called her before I even started the engine. Where are you? Her voice was sharp, urgent. Just got served. Parking lot outside the psychiatric hospital. Don't go home. Come to my office. Now. Later at her office, Kaylin met me in the lobby herself instead of sending an assistant. Her expression was grim. The PI finished his report. She handed me a thumb drive as we walked to her conference room. It's worse than we thought. Worse. I plugged the drive into her laptop and watched as files populated the screen. Bank statements. IP logs. Corporate registration documents. Insurance claim forms. Federal identity theft, Kaylin said, her voice like ice. Spanning 2 years. Your stepmother hacked your insurance portal using your stolen social security number. Changed the mailing address to a P.O. box registered to their lake house zip code. I scrolled through the evidence. My hands steady even as my pulse hammered. Fake therapy sessions. A shell company called Apex Neurotherapy Solutions. $40,000 in fraudulent insurance payments already collected. We have everything. Kaylin's voice was cold. Satisfied. IP logs placing her at the lake house during the logins. Billing records. The shell company registration is in her maiden name. I stared at the screen. At the proof of their betrayal laid out in spreadsheets and timestamps. We release this now, I said. Criminal charges. Public exposure. We end them. No, I looked up, startled. Kaylin leaned forward, her hand finding my arm. If we release this now, they withdraw the conservatorship suit. They hide assets. They flee jurisdiction. We get a small victory. And they minimize the damage. What are you suggesting? Right now they're committed to showing up in court. They have to appear. They have to make their case. Her eyes gleamed. We need them to commit perjury. Understanding crashed over me like cold water. Let them file sworn affidavits about my instability. Let them detail their financial needs under oath. Every lie becomes federal evidence. Exactly. Kaylin pulled up another file. I've already contacted the FBI. Agent Holloway is building a parallel case. But we need them to dig themselves deeper first. My instinct screamed to destroy them now. Immediate justice. Public vindication. But Kaylin was right. Strategic patience. Let them commit to the lie. What do I do? Play defeated. Broken. She opened a new document. Already drafting our response. Stop posting on social media. Appear reclusive. We'll file weak responses to the conservatorship petition. Miss some deadlines. Make it look like you're overwhelmed. And when they believe they're winning, they'll get overconfident. They'll exaggerate in their affidavits. They'll document their own crimes in sworn testimony. Kaylin's smile was sharp as a blade. They're signing their own arrest warrants. They just don't know it yet. I looked at the evidence on the screen. At the trap we were building. At the 3 weeks stretching ahead where I had to pretend to be broken. I can do this. I survived 72 hours in a psychiatric ward with my sanity intact. I can survive 3 weeks of performance. What about Judge Whitmore? She's sharp. Fair. She'll see through their act once we present evidence. Kaylin closed the laptop. But first, we let them commit. I nodded. My hands were steady now. Purpose replacing panic. They wanted to control me. To steal not just my money, but my autonomy. My future. My freedom. Instead, they'd walked straight into a trap of their own making. 3 weeks. I could wait 3 weeks. Then we burned their whole world down. 3 weeks later, the Superior Court smelled like old wood and stale ambition. I slouched in my chair at the defendant's table, wearing a plain, oversized gray sweater that swallowed my frame. My hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. I looked small, vulnerable, exactly like someone who couldn't handle her own life. Across the aisle, Conrad and Lenora sat like they were attending a gala. My father wore a charcoal suit that probably cost $3,000. Lenora was in cream silk with pearls. Their attorney, Marcus Aldridge, shuffled through a stack of manila folders thick enough to build a case for involuntary commitment. The courtroom was packed. Faces I recognized from 4th of July parties. Concerned family friends who showed up to watch me get declared incompetent. They whispered behind manicured hands, shooting me pitying glances. Merrick wasn't here. His MS had progressed to the point where he needed a walker now. The procedure window closed 6 weeks ago, right around the time the boat was christened. According to Kaylin's sources, he was mostly bedridden, dependent on the same parents who stole his treatment money. I didn't feel sorry for him anymore. Judge Alana Whitmore entered. We rose. She was 60, silver hair in a severe bun, reading glasses on a chain. Her expression revealed nothing as she settled behind the bench. In the back row, Agent Holloway sat in an unremarkable gray suit. He could be anyone. A court reporter. A paralegal. Someone's uncle killing time. His presence was the only thing keeping my heart rate steady. We're here for the matter of Taylor versus Taylor, Judge Whitmore said. Petition for conservatorship of the estate. Mr. Aldridge, you may call your first witness. The petitioners called Dr. Eris Thorne. Eris walked to the stand in a navy suit. His movements deliberate. He swore in. Took his seat. Kaylin stood from our table, slowly buttoning her jacket. Dr. Thorne, you're the neurologist treating Merrick Taylor, correct? I am. Can you describe the treatment plan you proposed 9 months ago? Eris leaned forward slightly. Merrick presented with aggressive, progressive multiple sclerosis. I recommended hematopoietic stem cell transplantation. The procedure costs $215,000. Elise Taylor liquidated her retirement accounts to fund it. And did the procedure take place? No. The funds were diverted. Aldridge stood. Objection. Speculation. Overruled, Judge Whitmore said, without looking up from her notes. Continue, Dr. Thorne. The parents purchased a boat instead. A Cobalt speedboat for $180,000. They told Merrick that fresh air was better therapy than medical intervention. Several people in the gallery shifted uncomfortably. Conrad's jaw tightened, but his expression stayed sympathetic. Lenora dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. What has happened to Merrick's condition since the procedure was canceled? Kaylin asked. It has deteriorated significantly. He now requires ambulatory assistance. His window for HSCT has likely closed. The disease will continue progressing. Thank you, Dr. Thorne. Aldridge tried to salvage it during cross-examination. Asked about success rates. Experimental status. Insurance denial. Eris deflected every attack with clinical precision. By the time he stepped down, the jury box we didn't have would have already sided with me. But this wasn't about facts. It was about optics. Conrad took the stand next. His performance was flawless. The grieving father watching his daughter spiral. Voice cracking when he described finding out about the psychiatric hold. How terrified he was. How he just wants to protect her assets until she's well again. She worked so hard for that money, he said, looking directly at Judge Whitmore. I can't let her destroy everything she built because she's not thinking clearly. I watched Lenora in the gallery. She was nodding along, tissues pressed to her nose. Several friends reached over to squeeze her hand. When Lenora took the stand, she was even better. Talked about my erratic behavior over the past months. The champagne glasses I smashed. Cutting them off financially without warning. The suicidal text message I allegedly sent. I'm terrified for her, Lenora said, her voice trembling. She's been so angry. So unpredictable. We just want to make sure she's safe. That her assets are protected until she gets help. Judge Whitmore took notes. Her expression had softened from neutral to concerned. Kaylin stood to cross-examine. She looked hesitant, shuffling her papers nervously. She dropped a pen, bent to pick it up, murmuring an apology. Mrs. Taylor. Kaylin started, her voice soft, almost unsure. You mentioned you're terrified for Elise? Petrified. Lenora corrected, sensing weakness. She smiled benevolently at my attorney's apparent incompetence. Kaylin fumbled with her notes. And these expenses. The boat. You felt they were necessary medical costs. Absolutely. Therapy takes many forms. Lenora exchanged a triumphant look with Conrad. They thought they'd won. They thought they were watching an amateur crumble. Kaylin nodded slowly. She closed the file folder. The nervous hunch vanished from her shoulders. Her posture straightened. When she looked up, the hesitation was gone, replaced by a gaze sharp enough to cut glass. Thank you for confirming that under oath, Mrs. Taylor. Kaylin's voice was suddenly clear, commanding the entire room. She turned to the judge. Your Honor, I move to dismiss this petition immediately. Confusion rippled through the courtroom. Aldridge shot to his feet. What is this? The funds my client's parents claim to be protecting are actually proceeds of federal crimes, Kaylin said calmly. This court cannot grant conservatorship over assets obtained through fraud. Judge Whitmore's eyebrows rose. Explain. May I present evidence? Proceed. Kaylin opened her laptop. A projection screen descended behind the judge's bench. IP logs appeared, white text on black background. These are login records from Ms. Taylor's health insurance portal, Kaylin said. Note the timestamps, locations, and device identifiers. She highlighted several entries. October 15th, 2 years ago. Login from the Lake House IP address. Device registered to Lenora Taylor. Mailing address changed from Elise Taylor's apartment to a post office box. Lenora's face drained of color. The next slide showed a photograph of a storefront that didn't exist, just a P.O. box number on a form. Apex Neurotherapy Solutions. A shell company registered under Lenora Taylor's maiden name Morrison. This entity submitted $40,000 in fraudulent insurance claims over 24 months for therapy sessions Elise Taylor never attended. Conrad gripped the armrest of his chair. His knuckles went white. Bank statements. Kaylin continued. the screen filled with highlighted deposits. Insurance reimbursements deposited directly into accounts linked to the lake house. $40,000 in fraudulent payments. Federal wire fraud. Identity theft. Insurance fraud. Aldridge was standing now, objecting, but Judge Whitmore silenced him with a raised hand. "The real threat to assets isn't from Ms. Taylor," Kaylin said, her voice echoing. "It's from her parents." She turned toward the back of the courtroom. "Agent Holloway?" The man in the gray suit stood, badge glinting as he held it up. 3 more agents entered through the rear doors, moving down the aisles. Conrad and Lenora realized too late. Their entire conservatorship petition was bait. Every sworn statement they filed. Every lie they told under oath. It was all evidence now. "Petition denied with prejudice," Judge Whitmore said. Her voice had gone cold. "Agent Holloway?" "Approach the bench." Holloway presented a document. The judge reviewed it, nodded. "Conrad Taylor. Lenora Taylor. You're under arrest for federal wire fraud, identity theft, and insurance fraud." The courtroom erupted. Agents moved toward the plaintiff's table. Conrad tried to stand, but an agent's hand on his shoulder stopped him. Handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Around Lenora's. "You can't do this." Lenora hissed. "We're the victims here." "You have the right to remain silent," Agent Holloway began, his voice calm amidst the chaos. The charges echoed through the courtroom. 20 years. Maximum federal prison. Bailiffs restored order as photographers rushed the courthouse steps outside. The concerned friends melted into the crowd, suddenly eager to distance themselves. I sat perfectly still at the defendant's table. No triumph. No vindication. Just bone-deep exhaustion and the hollow satisfaction of watching a trap snap shut. Dr. Thorne waited for me in the hallway. Didn't say anything. Just stood there, quiet support in a building full of chaos. Kaylin briefed me on the next steps. Assets frozen. Lake house seizure pending. Criminal restitution would fund whatever medical care Merrick needed now, though it might be too late. My conservatorship threat was over. Permanently. I watched my parents being led past television cameras and handcuffs, and I felt nothing at all. The courthouse steps were emptying when I saw him. Late afternoon sun threw long shadows across the parking lot, and Merrick was alone by a taxi, leaning heavily on his cane. The MS had accelerated. His foot dragged slightly as he moved. The tremor in his right hand was worse than it was at the 4th of July party. Stress does that. Speeds up the disease. The procedure window closed months ago. He hobbled toward my car in the parking structure. I watched him through the windshield. Keys already in my hand. His knuckles rapped against the driver's side window. Tears streaked his face. "Elise." His voice was muffled through the glass. "I didn't know about the shell companies. I didn't know it was federal fraud. Mom said she just moved the funds around legally. You have to believe me." I didn't roll down the window. "I'm scared," he continued. "They're gone. I have nowhere to go. Please." Same manipulation. Different crisis. At that party, he stood by a buffet table and told me he just wanted a normal summer. He chose the Merrick Clee over his own future. Chose silence over warning me about what they were planning. Now he wanted me to choose him again. My hand moved to the ignition. Not the window control. The engine turned over. Merrick's face crumpled. He stepped back as I reversed out of the space. Cane supporting his weight. In the rearview mirror, he was just a figure getting smaller. Alone in a parking structure with consequences he helped create. I didn't look back. 1 month later, I drove past the lake house on my way to the grocery store. An orange eviction notice screamed from the front door. Federal seizure pending criminal restitution. Lenora's gaudy furniture sat piled on the curb in the rain. A cream-colored love seat with gold trim, already stained. The coffee table with ornate legs, warping in the weather. Near the street, boat accessories waited for tomorrow's trash pickup. The Merrick Clee was repossessed 2 weeks ago, but pieces of it remained. Waterlogged cushions. Tarnished chrome fixtures. The custom life preserver with Merrick Clee crew embroidered in gold thread. Their greed dissolving in the rain. I parked by the lake where the dock extended into dark water. The spare key sat in my glove compartment where it had lived for 3 years. Physical proof of a promise I made in a hospital room that smelled like death. Take care of the boys. I tried. They destroyed me for trying. The key was heavier than it should be as I walked to the water's edge. Dock boards creaked under my weight. The lake was calm today, reflecting the gray sky. I threw it. The key spun once, catching the light, then disappeared into the water with barely a splash. Ripples spread outward in perfect circles, then faded to nothing. Promise released. Obligation dissolved. 3 months after the trial, I stood in my new apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Everything was clean lines and empty space. Photos of Dr. Thorne and colleagues from the agency lined one shelf. No family portraits. No lake house memories. Dr. Thorne sat at my kitchen island, wine glass in hand, telling a story about a pharmaceutical rep who tried to bribe him with Yankees tickets. His laughter was genuine. Mine was too. My second promotion came through last week. The campaign I pitched launches next month. Industry recognition. Corner office. Actual respect. This morning, a junior colleague knocked on my office door. Family trouble, she said. Parents demanding money. Guilt eating her alive. I shared my story. Not for sympathy. As evidence that survival is possible. Love doesn't require self-destruction, I told her. You can care about someone from a safe distance. She cried, then thanked me. Purpose found in supporting, not fixing. Evenings settled over the city. Dr. Thorne left at 9, hugging me goodbye at the door. I carried my wine to the balcony. Journal open on my lap. City lights spread below like stars. I wrote. I spent my life trying to save people who were drowning me. Today, I'm the only one swimming. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. I already knew who it was before I opened it. Can we meet? I need to talk to you. Please, Elise. I sipped my wine. Considered the request for 30 seconds. My response was simple. I wish you well. I'm not available. I blocked the number. Returned to my journal. No guilt rose in my chest. No second guessing. No voice whispering that I was abandoning family. Complete peace. I closed the journal and stood at the railing. The city pulsed below, alive with possibility. My life expanding instead of contracting. Genuine contentment settled over me like a blanket. I'm not looking back anymore, only forward. The journal lay open on the table behind me. Last line visible in lamplight, day 1 of my actual life.